G'day guys, Clint here recording episode number 66 of The Full Landscape with Neil Mullard. Neil owns Adelaide Hills Sandstone. He is also the Treasurer and Secretary of the Master Landscapers of South Australia and a friend of mine. We have known each other for a while, but we haven't really gotten a chance to sit down and talk about his history. Now that he's really old, he has a lot of history. And I say that tongue in cheek, he's not that old. But I really wanted to do a podcast to kind of understand how he got into quarrying. So Neil owns two quarries or two quarry businesses here in South Australia. And he has had a lot of different experience in Australia in the quarrying mining industries, as well as some other, or the nursery industry. So kind of a different one for you guys today. I think you'll find this really interesting. We go into a few little rabbit holes that are probably different to what you would expect. And as with all podcasts, if you've got any questions for me or Neil, don't hesitate to hit me up. I'll leave you with it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Right. Well, thank you very much for venturing down the mountain. I don't know how often you get into the city, but I appreciate you making some time. You feel a bit weird in the city?
I don't like coming down here. I love hanging around up in the hills.
The mayor of Uradler.
An unofficial title, I must admit, Clint.
So obviously we know each other quite well, being that we're both on the board for the Master Landscapers Association of South Australia. But for those people listening in, if you could just give us an introduction, who you are and how you fit into this crazy world that we happen to find ourselves in.
Yes, my name's Neil Mullard. I run a couple of quarries up in the hills above Adelaide. I also have a number of other businesses and a number of other hobbies. Rather like Clint, he has many himself.
Yes. What is it, like a jack of all trades, master of none?
Yes, I think so. But what you do is you do what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And we were discussing earlier, if you start off, your analogy was, if you like making the bacon,
yeah,
you want to cut the pig's head off. But
yeah, at some point you can't be the guy that cures the bacon. You have to be the guy that goes out and brings home the bacon, which kind of sucks for a lot of practitioners that become business owners.
Yeah,
which I think that's our industry. A lot of people that were practitioners that then became business owners.
Yes, I do agree with you, because when you start off, you're actually doing it, and you have to start off with one or two people. You can't just go into a huge business. So we all start off small and grow, and it depends upon the speed of growth. And you get to operate your toys, you get to dig a trench, you get to do this, you get to do whatever you want when you start off. And you also have to do things that you don't want to do. That's part of the whole game. Mm. And then as you grow, the business gets bigger, and someone needs to do the grunt, the daily grind of sales, the daily grind of the admin, the daily grind of this. You can grow it further than that, and then you can palm that job off to, or the bits that you don't like so much, to other people who maybe enjoy it more than you do. However, it does mean that you can't get to play with your favourite toys when you're in that stage.
So I feel like there's probably so many doors to open in your life, and I'll try and keep it kind of linear. So where did you grow up? I guess what was your early education like initially? Like,
I'm not sure whether I have grown up yet, Clint.
Okay, so where
my formative years.
What did you do in the years leading up to being able to legally drink alcohol? Drank alcohol?
Yeah, that's right. Work out ways to fool the publican. I started off in England. I was born in England, as you can possibly tell from my accent. I haven't really lost it.
You haven't spent any energy on changing your accent either, which is disappointing, but okay.
No, well, what you can't change, you might as well not expend energy on.
That's fair.
I'm an engineer by profession. I went to school. I then went to university in England, and tried. When it was in '82 was when this huge downturn in everything hit. I was trying to get a job as an oil driller, because as an engineer I could log bores and do that kind of thing. Instead of the 2,000 people they would normally take on, they took on one. And I wasn't quite good enough to...
Of the 2,000 that they would usually have taken, they took one.
That's right.
Jeez.
That was in 82, and it was unbelievable.
In England?
This was worldwide,
Yep.
I believe. I'm a bit older than you, and I remember this.
Well, 82 is familiar to me because that's my birth year. So
Right. So
obviously.
you know
you're that much older than me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wandering around, not able to get any. I mean, I could get work, obviously, but you can go and become a trench digger, or you could go and get serve.
But nothing that's that matches your education.
That's right.
Qualifications.
That's right. And so I looked overseas. I applied to a place in Australia and a place in Canada. I said I'll take the first job that is offered to me, and Australia was it. At the time, it took me about 2 months to get allowed into Australia. I got citizenship, and that was unheard of.
Well, you got citizenship in 2 months?
Sorry, no. I got permanent residency in 2 months.
And so this is obviously a period where they were looking for migration, skilled
that's
labour.
right. And they needed engineers. They needed professionals.
We still do.
Yeah. Look, I mean, landscapers are still needed vocation. So
were you single at the time?
Yes.
Yep. So you just went, go to Australia.
Yeah, that's right. And I got the job as a mechanic in a mining company. Within 2 weeks, I was national service manager for that company.
Yep.
They decided I was better at doing that rather than
because you had
fixing
no idea
machines.
how to fix machines.
That's right.
Yep.
That was practical.
Yep.
It's not really what you know; it's who you know. I got the job because I was working for the bloke on the board of directors of Hawker Siddeley, who was a very well-known man. He basically he said, "You'll put this bloke on."
Yep.
He was a next door neighbour, so that was really.
So how old were you then in 82?
I was 21-ish when I
so
came
you
over.
Finished university.
Yep.
And
hung around for 6 months, couldn't get a job.
Yep.
So over to Australia. It was really only meant to be a 5-year plan, and I'm still here 45 years later.
What state did you go to when you come to Australia?
I was fairly hungover.
Not that state. Was it in like Western Australia or did you?
No, I ended up in Sydney.
Yeah.
That's the head office.
Because you were doing a management role at that point.
Well, they had the factory in Sydney as well at Five Dock.
Yep.
And so I came in, and then they upped me to management, and that was head office. So that's where I was.
Yep.
I ran that for about 5 years with and just learnt the ropes of basically business, how to survive. I'm sure some of you have been to university, and it doesn't really set you up for any kind of business acumen or anything else. But I still use stuff that I learned, and that is an amazing feat. 90% of people don't use anything that they learned at university, but I'm still using it in various guises, shapes and forms.
Hopefully our doctors are.
Yeah, that's true. Hadn't thought of that way.
No, I think it's all the creative arts people that maybe don't find employment after university. I'm not sure. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm getting some nods from behind the computer. So you had to, I'm guessing at that point, fly to Australia, and then find accommodation. Did they help with that, or you're on your own? Like you're.
I was on my own, but I've spent my life travelling anyway. Before I left England, I'd spent 6 months in Alaska. I'd spent a lot of time travelling in Europe. It's when you're used to it, it's easy.
Yeah. What was the draw to Alaska? Just.
I went there twice for 3 months at a time in the summer because there's nowhere I was going in winter. Not minus 40 degrees centigrade. I mean, that's ridiculous. My sister was living there at the time and still is, and so I went over and helped and use that as a base and disappeared.
Older sister?
Yes.
Yep. So she migrated from England to Alaska?
Yes, because she liked the idea, and she finally bought a house a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
She's been travelling on her boat,
Yeah.
a 63-foot sailing boat, for most of her life. Yeah, I know, it's strange.
Well, I don't think it's not strange. It's intriguing to me. I mean, obviously to her, it's the only way she's ever known to live, and probably being on land probably feels strange. But it just, I ask I mean, it's obviously a landscaping podcast, but it's always good to kind of get to know people's lives. But that's really intriguing. Like, you just at some point you go, I'm going to go to Alaska, and well, it's kind of not good weather all the time, so probably don't want to live here. So I'll just get a boat and then just kind of.
It's off during
when it gets cold, I'll move to the slightly warmer.
That's right. She did actually 4 years ago now. She made it to the 89th latitude, which is the closest you can get to the North Pole, to show how global warming was actually affecting the ice cap and the polar ice caps.
When you say it's the closest you can get, as in without naval vessels
intervening? No, without actually walking on the ice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so
she sailed.
Yeah,
that's
touch
right.
the ice.
Yes.
All right, I'm going home now.
That was it. She was running some testing on the microplastics and how far it had actually impinged upon the northern oceans.
Yep.
And it's absolutely frightening how the microplastics nowadays, some animals, their stomach contents are 30% microplastics.
Which it was not, yeah.
It means that they just can't take enough energy on, and they end up becoming sick and dying.
Which is going to lead towards the extinction of...
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. This podcast's gotten off to a really sad start.
Yeah, sorry to be so negative.
It's all right, man. It's happening. It's real. So moving in, so you've got a job. At what point are you going, you know what, I'm going to be a quarryman or a quarry person in the 2000s?
In my life, I've had probably 4 major reiterations of life. So I started off, I'll quickly run through them. I left the job, started my own business importing forklifts. Rough terrain forklifts, and did that for a few years, and then I had millions of dollars worth of orders, and the company I was buying them off went broke. So I thought, that's a problem. So I then took up building. I moved out from that and took up building because I'd bought a place that had a mud brick cottage on it. So I took up mud brick building and extended the mud brick cottage in the right way, in the traditional way. And over the period of about 10 years, I built probably 50 odd mud brick houses, or parts for them. And I built a machine using my engineering, of course. I built a machine that made mud bricks, because I did 2 days, 2 men. I did 100 bricks, and for my house I needed 11,000 bricks. So you could see that there was quite a load of work to do. So I built a machine, and that could make 2,000 bricks a day.
With one human?
No, it needed 2 humans still.
But just to lift them off.
Yep. That's right, and feed it and lift them off. And that was great fun. That was a lot of and I fell foul of planning. Unfortunately, I thought it was a cottage industry, but the planners said no, it's an industry, and you can't do that where you want to do it. And so,
what do you mean by that? As in they weren't comfortable with the methodology?
They could call it a secondary industry, so it's not primary industry, secondary, and you're not allowed to have secondary industry up in the hills.
Oh, where you were making the...
That's right. So I actually sent the machine down into a Yatla, and I had the prisoners making the mud bricks for me for about 5 years.
Yep.
It was very interesting. I must admit I made a couple of errors talking to the boys, but I survived them. You don't say, it takes me 20 minutes to get out of here, because the bloke says, yeah, well, it's going to take me 20 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry
so
about that.
You would go down and work with the prisoners
Yeah.
take the machine down there, teach them how to do it, and then kind of leave them to it. Once they got
Yes,
to it?
I taught the custodial specialists how to do it,
Yep.
and then I'd go down once a week or so and just check and make sure that everything was.
And then
working.
you just load those bricks and take them to whatever building sites.
Yeah, that's right. Send them out to wherever.
And is this at land in Uradler? Is this property that you had here in South Australia?
Yes, yeah. My land was the hills, and that's hills, not hills face zone, but it's certainly watershed area, which just means that I can't do the secondary stuff.
What could you do? What's primary industry? Grow some sheep or something?
Because they ended up offering me 10 years in jail and a $50,000 fine. I said, okay, well, I'll roll over after a few years.
Yeah.
You can stretch things out.
I know. I guess government departments aren't exactly renowned for speed and efficiency.
No, and you just have to ask them another question, and it keeps
That's
on
6
rolling.
more months.
Yeah, that's right.
And then hopefully someone goes on maternity leave. That gives you 12 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, good.
That's my experience. Not financial advice.
So you asked me what I did after that.
Yeah,
Primary industry. I started a nursery.
Yep.
So I was supplying wholesale.
Because you had this land, you're like, well, I need to use it for something.
Yeah.
How much land are we talking?
20 acres.
Yep.
But 17 of it is scrub.
Yep.
So I only had about 2 acres to build, but still 100,000 plants. And I just kept that going. Guess what? We all remember when the water restrictions came in.
It was good for me.
I'm sure it was.
But I wasn't trying to water anything. I was trying to sell watering devices. So
Yeah.
a lot different.
But saving water, techniques for saving water, you would have made it.
Our docket average went up dramatically. We were selling, if we were doing a $200 average sale, we went to $2,000 because people had to buy so much more infrastructure to water their lawns. So, and you were on the other side of that, so you needed to be able to irrigate. Well, you couldn't irrigate.
I could irrigate because I was on a bore, and there was no. I've got a cap on that, which I pay even if I don't use it. So that was all right, but no one was buying because no one was planting because they couldn't water.
Yeah.
So I went down from $20,000 a week turnover to $2 overnight. Yeah. So that was amazing. I'm sure that it hit loads of other people as well.
Yeah, that was early in my career. I was working for someone at that time, and I remember like that 06, 07, 08 period of a lot of I think the reason we did well was that there's always, I mean, and this is the same in everywhere, but there was always an amount of wealthy people that were still comfortable spending money. And so if enough of them were getting landscapers to rip out their, sprinkler system and put subsurface drip systems in, they still wanted nice lawns. They just were going to pay $10,000 for it instead of $2,000 for it. Whereas obviously if you were selling the majority of your market, wherever it was going, if it was councils, I mean, they've got this kind of social responsibility not to be wasting water, then yeah. So what did you do? Did you just kind of run your stock down, or?
Yes, I commercially I looked at it and I said, I'm not sure whether I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because the nursery industry is very interesting. I knew that I was down a long way, and I knew that I would have to still pay and pot the stuff on and so on. I knew that there were costs involved, and I knew that I wasn't going to get a return over the next 2 to 3 years. So I said, okay, well, commercially, I'll just take the loss, because when I do start selling it, it'll get better. Unfortunately, and I thought, people are not going to be able to handle this. The downturn was so huge for nurseries. I said, this is my own interpretation. I said that we'd lose 50% of nurseries just like that in the first year.
For the ones that are living paycheck to paycheck, startups.
That's right.
Not quite big enough, don't own their own land, whatever it might be.
Yeah, all sorts of things. Or even just in the middle of town. Yep. Grimes was one that I thought was going to go down because they were using potable water from mains to keep the
sustainable.
Yeah, but they survived. Interestingly enough, what I found out was that the nursery people, a lot of nursery people are lifestylers. They don't actually know whether they're making money or not.
No, nor do they care.
No.
Yeah.
So, no, they just, I remember, a classic was, we only planted as half as many this year because we couldn't afford the tube stock.
Yep.
Does that mean you're actually selling off your stock to keep going? Yes, it does. But they didn't.
Doesn't matter.
They didn't do so. So I made a decision to flog it off.
What were you expecting that half that would go broke, and then if you could hold through that period, that you'd come out the other side with a high demand, low available stock, more profitable market? Was that the kind of
that was definitely yes.
Yep.
That was the idea.
Yep.
And I didn't realise just how tenacious people who don't really understand the finances of their business are.
It's an interesting way of looking at it, because it's not by design; it's by just existence that they're going to survive.
Yeah.
So you sold stock or sold the business?
Yeah, had an auction. Quite a number of people are still running around with my bucks sitting in their gardens.
Yeah.
It was 2 auctions over 4 hours, and I got rid of 98% of my stock. Just sold the whole lot.
And plant and seedling trays, just everything, or just stock?
Yeah,
Just got rid of everything.
Just got rid of everything.
So sell the stock first, and sell the infrastructure, kind of thing.
Well, there was no infrastructure.
Yeah.
Per se.
Everything was on the ground.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So then what? You're all cashed up.
Cashed up. Yes.
Educated.
Yeah.
No job.
Yeah.
No business.
That's right. So I started a sawmill because
Why not?
Yeah. I enjoyed it because I was still running a bit of building at the same time, building for your children, and building for this. So I started a sawmill, and I've still got the sawmill. It's still a hobby.
What is that? Like a shed and some saws, and you just get some logs and just start.
It's a more mobile one. You just cut down a tree,
Yeah.
build the sawmill on it, and cut the stuff up. It's great.
Just cut down whatever trees you want?
No. It's all
There's
all
regulations.
it's all blowdowns.
Yeah.
Or stuff that has been approved to be.
So you could
removed.
go to someone's property, and if they've got 8 trees down, you can saw it up and.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I don't know whether you know Adelaide. When Adelaide was first settled, England, English carpenters came over, and they looked at the eucalyptus, and they said, "We can't use this rubbish. It bends, it moves, it's terrible stuff." So what they did, they found lowly clay for the bricks, made the bricks, and they used the eucalyptus to fire the bricks. This is why Adelaide has a lot of brick and stone around. And nowhere near as much wood is being used. You go to Queensland and everything is wooden.
Because it's harder timber.
It's probably more stable.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with eucalyptus, the stringy bark, which is Eucalyptus obliqua. It's a beautiful timber. It's F17. It's hard. It's strong, but it does bend a bit. Yeah. You have to learn how to work with it. And they weren't prepared to learn, and obviously because they were used to using oak, which you can cut something green. Next, they put it in a house, and most of the time it'll stay dead straight.
Yeah,
it doesn't move around.
Yeah,
so
they didn't have the patience for that when they settled Adelaide and just went, "We'll just make bricks."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So,
what is this thought process like? You're just sitting there. You've sold your plants, and you're like, I reckon I might just start cutting up trees. Like, is there any background in this, or is this just like Neil's crazy ball bouncing around in the head, and just like, well, trees it is now?
Well, I've got a couple of trees down. What do I do with it? Do I cut it up for firewood? No, it's far too nice.
Yeah.
So you turned into something useful.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you think, well, I could build a house out of that. And so you then build a house or extend your kids' houses, and then because a lot of these things were running concurrently. So I've always been a builder. I got my licence about in the 92 odd.
So you currently hold a builder's license?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go build a single story,
I can
two-story?
multi-story. I got it when it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
When it was a lot easier.
Yes. Not that you don't have the skills. It's just it was recognised faster, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It took me a whole 20 minutes to get my licence.
It's like a boat license. There's no way I should be legally driving any boats, but I've got the license. Can't take it from me now. Well, they probably can. And so you this is all on the same property in the hills?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. I've lived there 37 years now. In the CFS, I've been there for that long, fighting fires and floods and whatever else you want to have thrown at us.
Did you come straight from Sydney to Adelaide?
No, I went to Perth in the meantime for a couple of years.
Because there was money to be made, like there was work there.
That's where I started the import business for the forklifts.
Yeah. So
I left my employer in Sydney, went to Perth, did that, came back to Adelaide, following a different path, and stayed here.
Was there a lady involved? Usually people move for one or two reasons. One of them is money, the other one's love.
I think it was money.
How did you come to be importing forklifts? Was that just you just saw an opportunity there? Like there was.
Oh, that was because I had been working in that kind of field prior.
No one's doing this in Perth. You're like, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Let's bring them in. And Perth, of course, is a nice place because you can get stuff backloaded for very little.
Yeah.
So you can bring it in quite cheaply into Fremantle, backload over to the western, eastern states.
Yeah. So it comes from Asia into Western Australia, and then it just.
These were made in England. Actually, these were English forklifts. So they would come down through Singapore and drop in.
Yeah.
And of course, the mining boom was there. So you just couldn't. I couldn't get enough forklifts to do it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that was where.
And it wasn't worth trying to find another manufacturer. You obviously saw that as a sign, or is this one of those life regrets that you just keep thinking about?
Interesting question. It didn't happen. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
I'll leave it at that. Moving on.
Yeah.
So, come to South Australia, and then go straight to the hills. Was there an appeal there?
Yeah. Someone said try the eastern suburbs. Yeah. And so I did. I just went a bit further east.
Up east. Yeah.
Yeah. So someone said, Burnside's all right.
Because you had money, you had enough money that you could afford to kind of buy wherever you felt comfortable when you got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things were so cheap compared to Sydney and compared to Perth.
Yeah.
I sold the place in Perth, and yes, it was.
It meant you could have chosen anyway, really.
Yeah.
So then it gets to quarrying.
That's right. Once I'd finished I got the sawmill going, and the next door, I live next door to the quarry. So the next door neighbour was having troubles with the quarry, and so I wandered down and I started looking at what he was doing and realised that it really wasn't very good. The machinery still had unguarded V-belts hanging around, no guards on any of the blades. It was from agricultural and from last done up in the 1950s, where you could do it not quite Victorian but pretty damn close. Yeah. So I again used my engineering expertise and started working on that, and unfortunately he was undercapitalised and went broke, which left me with a lovely opportunity to take over the business and do with it what I have done now.
What was the process? What did that process look like? Did it liquidate and then you had to go put in an offer, or were you? It all kind of got worked out over a bottle of wine and a.
It was liquidated. I knew the liquidator because I'd been to the auction and I'd bought a couple of things which were the absolute necessities to keep the thing going.
You
So
bought
there
them
was
without knowing that you were going to get the quarry.
I took a punt.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
I'd do that. I like that. Yep.
Yeah, they weren't very expensive because they were.
'Cause no one knew what they were.
That's right, and
Yeah.
no one could use them because they were built so specifically for this quarry as well as cutting stone. So, yeah, I took a punt and talked to the liquidator, and he said, "I suppose so."
Like no one else is going to buy this.
No one was going to buy the business because the business was worthless. The land, I don't even own the land. I pay a royalty to the landowner and, of course, to the government on the stone I take out.
Yeah.
So I haven't had to spend $1 million on the
Yeah,
property.
you're not buying the land. So that's kind of a nice business. It's a bit of a pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, it's
Minus
fine.
infrastructure.
When I sell it, I give him a percentage.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. It's a good way to be. Reduces your capital costs.
And for those that don't know you or the business, what are you quarrying? What are you mining from there?
Ah, yes. Well, this is the Basket Range Sandstone Quarry. Basket Range, obviously sandstone, and it's like the Bobcat of skid steer loaders. Basket Range Sandstone is well known, and most stone, unless it's bluestone, is termed Basket Range Sandstone, even if it came from Stirling or Macclesfield or Tea Tree Plaza or Tea Tree Gully or wherever.
Tea Tree Plaza. Imagine the rent selling stone at the plaza. And so you've got genuine Basket Range Sandstone, as in that's the suburb that the quarry's in.
Yep, that's right. Interesting enough, there's a little church in the middle of the hills. This church is about 5k by 5k, and that is a deposit of Basket Range Sandstone.
Yep.
It's nowhere else in the world. It's just this little thing. I have, within 5k of my Basket Range Sandstone quarry, I've counted a minimum of 13 other quarries. None of them are now extant, but I've got 3 quarries on contiguous boundaries to my quarry. So, it is it, and I'm the one left standing.
Is it a trademark term, Basket Range Sandstone?
It's not trademarked, but it is. It's like the Bobcat.
Yeah.
Bobcat is made by Clark Forklifts.
Yeah, I understand the term. It's like esky, right? I get it. Like it's so. But I guess this might not even be something that you want aired, but it wouldn't be a bad thing to get the trademark on that and then block people from using that term. But that's just my business brain.
Yeah. I mean, but is the Pope a sprinkler?
Yeah, that's right. And to what end? Like, is it really going to benefit you in any way doing it? So, what is that sandstone getting used for predominantly? Are you importing, are you exporting it? Are you using it for building? Is it landscaping? Is it stone tiles? Is it bricks?
Okay, it's when I first started, 30% of it was landscaping and 70% of it was building. Of that 70% building stone, around about 50% was matching old houses, and 50% was building completely new start builds. As in,
people would come and try and find stone that matched a repair on a corner. Or
that's right. Yeah. A lot of it weathers from the old stone was very soft. Basket Range sandstone is very soft, and so it does weather, and stuff comes out, especially when they built it and the landscaper puts a sprinkler onto it, and something goes wrong, and it washes it out. But not just that. It does deteriorate, especially when you've got diesel particulates, which become. It's not quite as bad as limestone, which will actually melt in front of your eyes, but it will still. The diesel particulates will damage it and start breaking down the bonds in the sand granules. Since then, there has been a distinct increase in the landscaping part, And as of now, I reckon the landscaping is probably 60 to 70% of basket range sandstone output. This is in retaining walls, this is in feature walls, all sorts of follies, seats, and so on. So it's really, I have seen, I've been there 10, 12 years, I have seen an absolute change towards landscaping. Landscaping has been taking on the stone. They've been accepting stone, and I think there's a reason. One of the reasons is that it is there, and it is there permanently. You know, you don't need to worry about fire. You don't need to worry about white ant. You don't need to worry about deterioration. Stone is stone is stone, and it's going to stay there for 10,000 years.
Unless you water it with a sprinkler.
That's right. That's right.
But in general,
that is in a building. That's in a building situation. The stones that we put in landscaping, they're never going to disintegrate. And the reason that these are the ones that are shaped, you know, they look like the top of a loaf on their side, and so those kind of things have to be soft because you've got to hand work them and sand them round and so on. So we use the softer stone for that. But for landscaping, you use a harder stone, and every 2 meters in the quarry, the stone changes character. So you've got this great big node face, and every 2 to 3 meters, you can see the change in colour of the layers that have been put down. It's fascinating. It's lovely. The geology of the Adelaide Hills is great too.
So the land you're on is owned by someone. How big's that land?
That land is 26 acres.
And at some point will you run out of stone? Obviously, that's of course you're going to run out of stone.
About 1,000 years.
That's that much stone.
Yeah, I don't sell that much.
Yeah,
I'm not one of these big companies, like Boral or whatever, who are sending out 10,000 tons of crushed rock every day.
Because the rock, the stone's too expensive for bulk use.
I'm not interested in competing with the bulk. I would run out, if I was doing that, I've only got 1 million ton. Yeah. If I was going to do that, I would finish, I'd have it ended up by, in 5 years, I wouldn't be able to get anything out.
But you would have sold it with no margin, and you've just been busy making no money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And the capital cost of setting up a crushing plant and a screening plant, for one, you need room, and I haven't got enough room. But the other thing, you need a lot of money. And if it's only for 5 years,
it's not worth
life, it's not worth it. No.
So do you blast stone out, or do you cut stone out, or do you jackhammer stone out? How does it work?
A jackhammer, a big jackhammer on a big excavator.
Yeah. How big, like a 22-ton excavator, or like a?
I started off with an 80-ton excavator.
80-ton.
Yeah, that's the biggest one in the hills, and then because I bought a 100-ton excavator.
Yeah, because you like excavators.
Yeah, that's right. It's got more grunt. Yep. So in fact, I use just a single point pick. It's a hook with a metal sock on the end. Yeah. And you just use that to pull it apart.
And that'll pull out like a couple of cubic meters of stone or whatever, and then you cut that up.
Yeah, that's right. It goes from the size of goes from very small up to 2 or 3 meters down.
So for people listening, like an orange up to a car.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've not had anything bigger than a car out of basket range, because while I'm talking about basket range, I have neglected to mention that about 8 years ago, I actually bought Kerry Gully Sandstone, which was again had gone broke.
Yeah. Look at you, just vulturing in and saving the day, picking the meat off the bones.
It's bloody expensive.
Mate, don't worry. I'm only being smart ass to you because I know you so well. But is that do you get the land for that, or did you buy the business? Same deal.
I bought the land, and it was only the land.
Yeah.
I'm running under what we call a private mine, which is a government. It's something that the government gave to people in the 70s because they were already digging holes
So they
and
just wanted to
taking stuff out.
regulate it.
No regulation at
Yeah.
all. So the government said, well, look, if you register as a private mine, gazette yourself as a private mine, then we will let you.
You can
dig it
continue
out.
doing
And
it. Yeah.
basically, the Private Mine Act trumps the, shouldn't use trumps, beats Native Vegetation Act, Planning Act, all sorts of stuff. So it really is a very, very useful thing, and you mustn't lose them.
Can you sell that license? Or
It's not transferable.
Yeah.
You can transfer it, but that license is in that exact area.
Yeah, okay.
So you've got that's the boundary.
Yeah, so you can't sell the license and take it to Semaphore and start mining kind of thing. Like it has to be.
Yeah, it's
that
not like
area.
water.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So no, it has to be used on that area, and sometimes it goes over the whole area, the whole of the land, the whole ownership of the land. Other times it's just a small corner of the land, depending on what they wanted to do.
And so the companies like Boral that are quite large wouldn't have a private mining; they'd have a separate relationship.
Nowadays, most people get what is called an EML, an extractive mineral lease.
Yeah. So that's what the mining in WA would use.
Yeah.
That's what quarries here would use.
Yeah. There's probably 400, 500 private mines around.
Yeah.
But what has happened with a lot of them and the bigger companies, they've surrounded the private mine with an EML because they needed to expand.
Yeah.
So it all becomes a bit difficult.
And so that mining license, you could be like in your quarry, if you find silver, gold,
I can take anything,
whatever you
like.
want out of the ground, that's yours. And then there's an arrangement with the government to then pay them a portion of any of it?
Yes, I have to pay them 5% or 3%, depending on what I'm taking out, of my turnover, which is very interesting because I've got a quarry which one man operates, and then I help if we need more, and I've got 20 blokes operating the saws, breaking the stone down.
Yeah, so they're getting paid for that infrastructure. There's no real way around that either.
I still had to pay the royalty for extraction on the manufacturing side of it.
This is just me being me. So you could sell the uncut rock to a separate entity for $1 a ton.
I couldn't. That has been well fixed.
I had it sorted. Take it off site, sell it for nothing. No, okay, cool. Obviously, someone in the government is doing their job.
Unless it is totally arm's length transaction. If I was going to sell it to
me,
Clint, and you were running it, and we didn't have an association, then that would be different.
It's kind of like payroll tax. You can't dodge it by having 2 or 3 different companies that do kind of the same thing, but they're all separate companies. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Can't hack that bit. That's right. That's just my brain that goes that way.
Yeah, I know. It's in a true Australian tradition, though, isn't it? Minimisation, not avoidance. Minimisation.
No, that's right. Well, as long as it's within the rules.
Yeah.
They've set the rule. I just had a phone conversation before we started the podcast, and I said, "Tell me what the rules are." And they were kind of like, "Well, this isn't in the spirit of our relationship." I'm like, "I'm not. I just want to know the rules. You tell me the rules, and I will then make my decisions around the rules. If the rules aren't in line with us buying more stuff from you, then we won't. If you set the rules that makes it look like we're going to buy more stuff from you, then we will." Like, it's real simple. But they weren't comfortable telling me the rules because they knew whatever they told me, I was going to grab it and find a hole through it and benefit myself. But that's business.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly, yeah. It's not just win-win, it's whatever's in it for me.
To a point, as long as you don't hurt anyone.
Definitely.
So obviously quarrying's good enough to you financially to go buy another one, or it's just, is this your? Well,
you have to. I wasn't going broke fast. I wasn't going broke fast enough with one, so I thought I'd buy another one to speed the process up.
And then, so you've done machinery, you've done timber, you've done stone. What what's like if the quarrying, if you sold it or whatever, what's next? Is there next, or do you think this will be like you'll do this?
I've just started a bike hire business, an electric push bike business, just because that's one of my hobbies. I love cycling, and so I thought I'd let people enjoy the benefits of electric biking, because in the hills I don't want to be pushing up really steep hills.
Yep.
Some people do, but that's not my bag.
No.
So there's another one if you want to add that to the list.
So they're those kind of like the thousands of dollars push like electric bikes, like
Yeah.
And so what? So if there was tourists staying in the hills, they could come and hire a bike and
go for a ride.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
How many bikes have you got?
10 at the moment.
Yep. And how do you market that? Is that just Facebook and online?
So social media. We also have partners. So all the B&Bs partner with us, and if they have someone there, they'll sell, and someone wants to go for a bike, we drive the bikes to them, drop them off, show them how to operate them, give them a suggestion of where they want to go,
and then further clog up the hills with people on push bikes.
Yeah, but they're going very fast.
I guess if you're stuck behind a cyclist doing 60, you're not stuck behind a cyclist.
Yes, and so then you pick them up, and that's the basis of it. It's I think it's going to work.
Hire businesses. I like hire businesses. It's the sentence I'm about to say is going to sound really bad. It's going to upset some people, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's come to my mind. It's like running a brothel without the emotions, right? You get to re-hire out the same thing the next day at some point, which you own outright, and apart from some maintenance, you get to make money on it every day. And from what I understand, the tax deductibility of hire businesses is really quite good. There's a lot of...
You've spent the money, you can deduct it very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the instant tax deduction thing's about to kind of end, but if you've just started it...
Yeah, but it's still going to be 20 grand.
Yeah.
And you make sure that anything you buy is under 20 grand.
Yeah.
And with bikes...
Yeah, they're all under 20 grand.
They're not all 20 grand.
Was that part of the decision-making process, that tax deductibility and that, or it just...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I believe that there's a new market. I know I'm a quarryman now, but I am also very green, and I think that I drive an electric car. I have electric bikes. I'm trying to get the energy footprint of the quarries down as low as I can.
Is the electricity that you charge your car with
solar, of course?
Do you know what I mean? Because you say I see this a lot with like the EVs, and it's like, yeah, I've got an electric vehicle, like I'm gonna stop the whales from dying and shit, like I'm fucking amazing. But then they plug it into a coal-fired electricity network. So you got solar at home.
Yeah.
How big is your solar at home?
42 kilowatts.
Jesus. I'm running 15 and I thought I was a hero. 40 kilowatts.
Because I've got three-phase.
Yeah, I've got three-phase at home as well, but I think, so you would have had to get special permission from the regulator?
Yes,
yep.
Yeah, I run a business.
Yep.
I run a business from there.
Yep.
So 41 or 42, yeah.
That's massive. But it's probably not that big for your business.
No.
Like
unfortunately,
it's still supplemented
with far too much.
Yeah, you're still buying from the grid.
Yeah.
That's what he charges his EVs with, the grid.
God, I try, all right?
That's right. If Elon says it works, it works. So, what's your vision like? When do you think your 100-ton excavator will run from batteries? In your career?
There are people running them.
It's just the cost prohibitive nature of...
I can't afford new equipment at the moment.
So your ESG versus finance balance is just not quite there yet. Like if you had 100 mil cash, you'd be like, yep, I'll buy the excavator.
That's right.
It's the right thing to do.
And interestingly though, I'm running it during the day.
Yeah.
Because that's the only time I can operate the quarries.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to operate 24 hours a day. I can only I've got noise constraints, etc., etc. So I'd have to have 2 batteries, wouldn't I? One to charge up one day and then swap them over and charge the next one while I'm running one down.
Yeah. Pretty substantial batteries. Although battery technology seems to have come a long way, even in the last 12 months, let alone 5 years.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. I think I would love to do it. There is going to be
a fully
a way.
solar-powered quarry.
Well, let's face it, Forrest is going that way, and he's talking about massive quarries and massive machinery, and he's going that way.
Well, he has the money, and he's got the government relationships.
Yes. So you do wonder how much it does actually cost him in the end, don't you?
Yeah, but I think I find he seems like the kind of guy who, like, when he talks about helping, he genuinely means it. Sometimes you see these big corporates and they feed this bullshit about how, but it's just what they've read from the back of their notes, and they're like, yeah, we care, but they don't care. They just care about their next bonus or their next quarterly report or the whatever. But I think when I've seen him talk, it feels like, and I might be wrong, but he genuinely seems to care. So
I think you're right, and if we could have everything running off renewables. I'm not sure whether some of it's obviously got to be on the sunlight, but I think the wind power. My other bugbear is, why on earth don't we go for safe nuclear?
Yeah,
we can control it. It's ridiculous.
I think that it's a branding problem. It's a marketing problem. And I don't know enough about nuclear power to comment on whether or not it's safe or good or bad. But my opinion is that because we've had some catastrophes, both like intentional Nagasaki, Hiroshima, plus Chernobyl and recently Fukushima, people are scared by it. And
they're all old.
I get that, and that's what I'm saying. I don't need to be convinced. It's a marketing problem. Because, like, when something goes wrong, it goes really wrong. It's not like, and this is, like, bad, if something goes wrong at your quarry, it might affect one person, which is horrible, and we never want someone to get hurt. If something goes wrong at a nuclear power plant, it can affect 150 to 250 to 500 to a million. Like, it's a problem. So
that is true. And
I think that there's so much distrust from 50% of our government, from 50% of our people, no matter who's in power, that if the leader that you voted for, that you didn't vote for, says nuclear power is safe, you're going to be like, no, it's not, regardless of whether or not you know that it is or not. And then there's all these armchair experts, which we've just seen for the last 3 to 5 years and beyond. Imagine trying to convince them that a nuclear power station's safe.
So we're just going to sit here and let the temperature go up and up and up
until it gets to a catastrophic point where there's no choice.
Isn't that a bit too late?
That's how
Can't
humans
we think
work.
about it now?
This is a really interesting one. Like, human beings prefer cure over prevention, right? They always have.
Is it to do with laziness? Or is it procrastination?
I think it's probably laziness. It's like, why take action if I don't need to? Everyone has different. So you look at people like Richard Branson and Elon Musk, who think in, beyond their life. They think beyond their life. And then there's plenty of people that you would interact with every day, that you would be friends with, or that might work for your business, that think about everything up for the next week or tomorrow or the next pay cycle, or maybe getting their kids, like maybe a decade, right? And I think my horizons have changed, and now I'm starting to think in decades, but I'm not thinking generationally that much. I'm like, to be honest, I had to fucking earn my money. My kids can earn their money. That's not my problem. And I think we do it with our health, and we do it with the world. Everyone's just fighting their own fight, right? And so until it gets to a point where they're like, it's like, if today you're busy, right? Really busy. But if you were diagnosed with a terminal illness yesterday, all of your appointments today change.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same with nuclear. It's the same with global warming. There's not enough it won't matter. We sell lawn chemicals. We sell one that kills weeds and one that's a pre-emergent to stop them from growing. The one that kills the weeds outsells the pre-emergent 100 to 1 because human beings like cure over prevention. Now, whether or not that's the result of marketing and, medicine companies potentially, like, why would you want people to prevent it?
Exactly.
And maybe
it's a lot cheaper, isn't it?
That's right. But maybe global warming's the same. Maybe it's going to be a lot more financially beneficial for certain people to fix global warming than to stop it, if it in fact exists, and not everyone thinks it does. I have no position on it, but
yes. Well, that's a very in-depth discussion when we're talking about landscaping.
Dragging it back to landscaping.
But interesting enough, what will happen if it does happen and the sea level raises by 5 metres? You will have lost half of Adelaide. It'll all be underwater. Mm. That's going to be really interesting for the landscape industry, isn't it?
It can be good, especially if the water recedes. There's a lot of repair work there. Mate, I know that sounds horrible, but right now there's a lot of landscapers putting in new lawns and irrigation systems in the river, along the riverbanks. I think, and this isn't my quote, this is from Gary Vee, who's someone that I follow, is that, like, human beings are undefeated, right? Like, we just seem to somehow fucking come back. And we've had the ability to kill out, like, the whole Earth, to destroy the whole Earth for, since the 40s, maybe the 30s? Like, to just destroy the whole Earth. And we haven't done it. And every time something goes wrong, we kind of find a solution. And you got guys like Elon trying to settle Mars. But there's also probably, 2 or 3 people somewhere in Alaska, maybe, that are researching a mushroom that's going to cure cancer. Like, there's stuff going on. And who knows, maybe someone invents a device that eats the microplastics and turns them into gold. Like, I don't worry about it. And I think there's a lot of people a lot smarter than me that are working on solutions to all these problems. And I think also, if people spend too much time worrying about global warming or nuclear war or whatever, that you can get caught in this trap of perpetual anxiety where you're not actually living your life. Mm. You're just worried about dying too much. And I think that's a dangerous place. But I don't know what that balance is.
Well, I worry about where the next beer's coming from.
Well, I can get you a beer right now. There's actually one right here.
Oh, look at that.
It's not cold, though.
No.
But you don't strike me as the person that really cares about cold. Well, you're from England, right?
Home, yeah, that's right. And it's warm dishwater. I've had all the jokes.
So, to drag this back to the pot landscaping and stop trying to solve the problems of the world, let's go back to what we're trying to do is solve, some problems of the landscape industry. You're the treasurer and secretary?
Yes,
of the
MLSA,
Master Landscapers. How long have you been on the board?
4 years, 5 years.
And what was your reason for wanting to nominate in the first place to be on the board for the Landscape Association?
I had been on the board of Nagisa, which is a nursery and garden industry in South Australia, and I found that I actually did quite well at it. It's you need someone with a level head, someone who doesn't disappear to the next thing. Oh, look, a butterfly. Oh, is that a nice...
He's very gently referencing me.
Did I say that?
Well, you bring an engineering brain to a human problem, I think, sometimes for us.
No, I think the MLSA is a nascent association. It's been up and down. It's had its nuances, and I think that we are at the very beginning now of becoming very powerful. Mm. All the work that everyone has done beforehand is all going to come to a head and go beautifully. Mm. It's just everything's going to gel, because it'll get to a stage where it is self-perpetuating. Mm. When it's this perpetual mass, isn't it? The critical mass. Once it gets to a critical mass, it will it'll grow from there.
I
And
talk
think
about that a
we're
lot
there.
with Amanda, like getting that kind of terminal velocity of membership sponsorship, which then brings the critical mass of staff, and then it becomes almost like a trust where it just, these are the rules that the trust works under. It will always have enough money to fund the business. It's like the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Like it will never stop because there's enough money to protect it, keeping it going. And if you can get that to a point, and I agree with what you're saying, I think that there's all these blocks that have been built and they're kind of scattered around in a paddock. And we're at this point now where we're going, all right, we're going to grab that block that someone worked on in 2008 and we're bringing it in and we're going to put them all together and we're going to build this house that is an industry advocacy for the future. So you got on, say, 5 years ago. What was your early axe to grind? Like, what did you think needed to be dealt with first?
I'm tired of seeing the landscapers be a second fiddle or a second-class citizen to the builders. Landscapers are what actually make the house. The house itself is a house. It's bricks and mortar or stone and mortar, whatever we want to do it out of. But it's the surrounds which actually make the difference between a really sparse, horrible house and a home. If you've got something that is beautiful and suits you, I mean, there's so many different styles, but if you've got something that suits you and you enjoy, then it's your home. So your question was why?
What was your axe to grind? What did you?
And
most board members either they come on for selfish reasons, where they just want access to more people, or they want to, I don't know, put it on their resume. You don't strike me as that kind of person. Or you've got board members that will come on board because they want to fix something. They see a problem and they're like, "This isn't like I'm either going to complain about it and do nothing, or I'm going to do something." So what were the? I guess your campaign promises, if that might be a better way of putting it.
Yeah, it was to try and raise the perception of landscaping as it's an art. It's beauty. But we still just are always an afterthought. Possibly because we're at the very end, at the last thing. But really, we should be thought of at the very beginning, at the inception of the building. Right, well, let's put a couple of trees in that it's going to start going because we're going to need them in 10 years' time. And if we've got 3 years start, we're laughing, aren't we? At these kind of things, but it doesn't happen.
Well, that specific example is exactly the same reason that we're not doing anything about the future today. The whole planting a tree for shade you'll never experience. Not many people do that. So you're not going to do it as a builder, right?
You're not, but there are some architects, there are some architects who do think if we could get the landscape architects to talk to the architects too siloed to get a holistic approach. 6 months ago, I was a judge on the stuff that came from the architects, from landscape architects. The final year coming out of the university after their sort of 4 to 7 years work. Mm-hmm. I was absolutely gobsmacked with the thought that had gone into it, and the fact that they really have been thinking along the lines which I have been wanting to do, which we've alluded to, such as the global warming and so on. It is there was some absolutely stunning research done on materials, new ways of using materials, new ways of recycling materials, new ways of building, and new ways of going about it. It was really, really interesting, and I would recommend if anyone is interested in what's happening now, rather than what us old farts know as that's the way it is. then they should start looking at what is coming out of the universities nowadays, and it's really, really refreshing. People are worried, and they are doing something. So I know we were possibly too cynical
That's
about.
not we. That's you, mate. You're too cynical.
True, but
I'm positive. We're fine.
Yeah, you're positive that people are too lazy to fix it.
I'm positive that someone will find a solution and then it'll be fine.
Good point. Yes, and this is happening. I've seen this happening and this is just in Adelaide. I'm sure it's happening throughout the world.
How did you get involved in that? Is it just your Nagisa kind of like just historical relationship? Someone says, "Can you do this?"
This is because I sponsor the final year display.
Yep.
They have a very, very impressive display, and I put some money in there because I believe that we've got to nurture the up and coming
Children of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should have a song.
And I'm also cynical, very cynical.
The children,
I am
the children of the problem. they're the fucking problem.
They're the ones who are going to spend money in my quarry.
Yeah. Well, Bunnings, they got it, mate. Give away footballs and teddies and forklifts, like. Yeah, McDonald's, Happy Meals, like it's not a foreign idea. So, what's your dream for the MLSA then? You got involved because you wanted to highlight the industry more and get more respect.
Yeah,
and have
get it.
It's funny because you talked before about how you thought you were a primary industry and then you found you're a secondary industry, and then there's this parallel that the landscape industry wants to be treated as a primary industry, but it's almost treated as a secondary industry.
Yes.
What's your vision for it? Like, if we were to sit here in 10 years from now and talk about like the changes we made, and I'm not suggesting you'll be on the board for 10 or that I will be either, but what would you like to be able to look back and go, that changed because of work we did?
Look, I think there are a number of things, number of problems. You and I, we've all.
I know the answers. This is
business.
for
Yeah. There are a number of problems which are common to every business and every business owner, and you go and talk to any business owner and you realise you're not an orphan. You've all got problems with getting labour. You've all got problems with credit control. You've got problems with this and you've got these problems. So what I would like to see for the MLSA, because we are going through a skill shortage, and I do think that there is a problem with a lot of youngsters today. They don't actually have the same kind of work ethic that people used to have. People have been through more austere times. I think that now, if they can sit there and play with their computer, they prefer to do that than wield one end of a shovel. But there are certainly lots of people who do want to do it, and I think that we in the landscape industry, we need to train people. I think that is the most important thing. We train people into being able to do the job and think about ways that they can make the job easier, make the job better, make sure that we don't have to do it again. Because one thing that really frustrates me is having to do the job once, twice, 3 times over. Maybe over 30 years. But why do we put up a bloody play equipment that disintegrates in 10 years' time? Yeah. Why don't we have something that is permanent? It's just the idea of the wastefulness of certain things. Now, this is nothing to do with MLSA. This is to do with the way of looking at it. So if we could train people up,
yep.
If we could get the landscape industry talking to the building industry and working together in a much more collaborative way, it would be really, really nice. It would make everything easier for everyone, but it could also end up being a very, very positive, cooperative process of getting a project done.
Makes sense. Is retirement something you think about?
Because
Because
It
you're
is.
old?
Well, it's rose-coloured glasses too. Very old, all right. I'm a...
Actually, before you answer that, how old do you feel? How old is your brain? Like, we joked at the start about you not growing up, right? And I think at 60 and 70, I'll still think like 30 or 20 or 40 or whatever. How old do you feel? Like, not your body, because obviously that's something that probably changes with just genuinely getting older.
Yeah.
How old do you feel in your brain?
I am still childlike.
Yep.
I'm very happy doing anything that gives me pleasure. So I don't know. Am I 20? Am I 40?
Yeah.
I know I'm not 63.
Yeah. Because, I mean, 20 to 40 feels like the same thing to me. And someone sitting here who's in their 20s is probably like, you're fucking crazy. You're both old as shit. But I'm 40 now. I'm like, I don't feel 40. Like, even physically, I don't really feel 40.
You don't even look it.
Yeah,
50 more like.
Well, that's, yes, it's the fillers. So, sorry, I'm going to go get my hair dyed now. And so retire at 63. I mean, a lot of people at 63 are just like 20 more months and we can cash it in and sit around and do fuck all and fucking die. Like, what do you like? Will you work till you physically can't anymore, or is there some holiday? Like, do you try and spring shandy in leisure and work, and it becomes just one thing? I feel like that's probably the answer, but
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very, very good bite. Because I enjoy my work, then I don't actually do a day's labour in my life, because I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
What I will do is I will offload the stuff that I don't like doing to someone who can do it better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been an aim. I have my son works in the business. He is my succession plan.
And he wants to do that? Or are you just telling him?
I've told him he's got to do it.
Okay, that's fair. That sounds about right.
He's
young'uns who don't want to do anything but play on their iPads.
Yeah, that's right. So he'll keep on that,
Yep.
which means that I can sit there and I can do the things that I can see need doing,
Yep.
as long as I enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, I'll tell someone else to do it.
Yep.
That's the
As in, so what you can see there being a period where he's running the business and you're out clawing rock and putting safety guards on machines and servicing tractors and whatever else. Yeah.
And then maybe going for a pushback ride and I go rowing on a Saturday morning at 6.
You go rowing. Yeah, on water.
On water,
Yep.
yes.
With a crew.
Yes,
Dragon boat or
an 8. It's an 8.
Yep. Does an 8 have a coxswain?
Yes.
Yep.
Coxswain. Yes.
Coxman.
No, coxswain.
Person. Coxswain.
Coxswain. Yes.
Okay.
Or a cox.
Do they have to be little?
No.
It's not
No, they
preferred.
don't. This is
Am I too
not.
big?
This is not. Yes.
Okay.
It's not the size; it's the weight that counts.
Yeah. So if everyone
You've
else
got the
is
weight of the world on your shoulders, Clint.
so if you're like a slender 6 foot plus, you're fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Being that I might be, with my winter coat, it's maybe not. Yeah, okay.
Just a little under height for your weight.
And so, is that how long have you been rowing for? I was going to ask what are your hobbies, and it's kind of just naturally gone into it. Like, was that a university thing? And like,
no, something I
English-
started about 5 years ago.
English uni students have to row.
Well, I lived in Oxford, so of course
You're the wrong team.
Yes, but I didn't row. I went caving speleology, so I went underground instead. Yeah.
Dry caving.
And some wet. Never with
shit out of me. Yeah.
Never with a mask. I wasn't prepared to do that.
I swear, there's probably 20 more things, dude.
You claustrophobic?
Oh fuck yeah! I'm scared of everything. I'm fucking scared of everything. I'm not going to tell you those fears because I don't need the stress. But I will share one thing that's coming up that I'm a little bit anxious about. A friend of mine is flying me and some of his friends to America for a holiday, to Vegas and to San Diego. And I've never been to the US, and I've got 4 trips this year. One of them is 2 trips with him. One's in October. And he's like, I'll let you know what we're doing when we leave. And I'm like, nah, man. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, if you attempt to like fucking strap me into a roller coaster on the roof of a hotel in Las Vegas, you won't ever see me ever again. Like, I'm gone. Like, I appreciate our friendship, but I have the means to get extracted, and I'm gone.
In the coffin.
I'll have a private jet pick me up, and I'll be out of there. And he's like, nah, man, you'll be fine. And I'm like, are we doing that? He's like, I'm not telling you, but we'll be doing fun stuff. I'm like, oh, mother. So yeah, there's certain things that I don't feel comfortable doing. Yeah. Also, now that I'm 40, I'm wanting to challenge myself on those things, especially with young children. I've got twins who are 6, and my oldest boy just turned 10. I don't want them to inherit those fears. And so flying was the one that I struggled with a lot, and now I had my first flying lesson. You probably have a pilot's license, I would suggest.
No,
you haven't.
No,
yep,
no,
that hasn't come up.
Interested me.
It would, if he just turned around and go, nah, chopper, wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, so I'm trying to do things that scare me, but I think some of my fears people would describe as irrational, and then I see a roller coaster fall off of something, or like a bungee cord snap, or like a high-speed boat go into a wall, and I'm like, see, not irrational. People died.
Yeah, no, look, I agree.
Just that's rare, but it still happened. So, and yeah, I used to jump in a VNSS and do donuts in the middle of the road while people are driving around. So there's this, you know, on private property.
But very laudable to actually decide that you want to face them.
Yeah, caving. Do you have any fears?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually petrified of water.
Yeah.
Even when I'm on top of it. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so that much water you're cool with?
You know what? Yeah, you know what fish do in it anyway.
I do. You should see what he does with fish in it. The I'm gonna just keep throwing you under the bus as much as I can. No one knows who's sitting there.
No.
So,
Right.
yeah, Nemo. So, when you're on a boat, you're not comfortable.
No, not really.
What's the body of water that, like a swimming pool's fine?
Swimming pools.
Hang on a sec. We just talked about you rowing.
Yeah, I know.
So you're not like coming out of the boat.
I'm all right in an 8.
Yeah.
A single. I can't do it
Because you just don't feel like you got the support there, and if you went in,
I'm guessing you
can swim.
I can swim. Yes.
They had pools in England growing up.
Yeah. I lived on the River Thames, so I used to swim in the Thames. But as I've got older, it's probably a pommy thing, you know, an aversion to bathing, possibly.
Yeah. Or like getting put on a boat because you're actually being sent to Australia.
Yes.
That's probably actually in the DNA, because usually the boats were used for the convicts, you know.
Yeah.
So rowing, cycling, quarrying, engineering.
Yeah, working.
Yep.
And family.
Yep.
Got family. And the most important thing is rehydration.
Rehydration.
Yeah.
For those listening, Neil is he has a punch card at the Adelaide Hotel that gets punched regularly.
Very much so.
Is that you've just always liked hanging out? You go drink at pubs? You like doing that?
Yeah. Oh, England, the English pubs are marvellous.
Yep.
It's like the English landscaping. You know, it's all really, really good.
Yeah.
And the Australian pubs, they're a lot of fun.
Well, your Radler pub's probably, it feels a bit more of a traditional pub, doesn't it? Like even just the kind of clientele that would be going there.
Your Adelaide has had a very much a renaissance. It was closed for 7 years, and I actually ran the Bowls Club bar so that everyone would know could actually get a drink in your Adelaide. Yes, that was really useful.
Yeah.
Because I always thought I wanted to own a pub.
And you'd realise you don't.
And that put me well out of wanting to do that. So I realised that I was only any good on one side of the bar.
Yeah, you're good on that side. My next question was gonna be, if you had the money and the Uradler came up for sale, would you buy it?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not cut out for that kind of thing. I don't suffer fools gladly. I think that you and I have that very much in common. And when people have had more than one,
you wouldn't be able to. Yeah, that my no dicks allowed rule wouldn't really work in a pub, because after about 10 p.m. everyone's a dick. Like, have another one.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've got no more questions for you. I'm really glad we had a chance to sit down and talk. I've obviously known you for a while, but I don't really know you, and there's probably so much more that we haven't talked about. So thank you for coming down. Is there anything that you want to promote at the moment? Like, obviously, this is a landscaping podcast. Have you got any new products coming out?
Not much has been talked about in landscaping, but it's been good fun talking. Really, just I do have the two quarries, and I've combined them into Adelaide Hills Sandstone. Yep. The reasoning behind that, you still have the same quarries. They're still from Kerry Gully and Basket Range, but the Adelaide Hills is that I can send the stuff over interstate, because no one knows where Basket Range is, but people know where Adelaide is, and this is sandstone from Adelaide Hills, and that's useful. Kerry Gully is most definitely 99% of landscaping stone. It's flatter. We go from something the size of an orange up to something that weighs over 100 ton. I pulled one out the other day, calculated out, so it's between 105 and 110 ton.
Is that a bus?
Yes. It was 5 times higher than I was standing upright, and I was.
It just broke off.
We pulled it out like that, and obviously it's no good. Except that you can cut it. I've got a great big sawmill blade on the front of my excavator, which I use to slice big stuff like this up into useful sizes. So
dry cutting or wet cutting it?
Wet cutting only.
Yeah.
Because of the silicosis and so on.
Could your stone be used for kitchen benches?
Yes, it can, but I don't really have the means of cutting it yet. It has been used a lot, there are all sorts of things. Basically, your imagination is the limit with all this stuff.
Yep.
So, it's an interesting job. I love it, and I just want to keep on going.
It'd be cool to get head up there actually and film if we could, and do a bit of a tour if that's something you're open to sometime. Show us around.
Do you have a drone in your arsenal?
We've got a drone. I don't know if we've got anyone that knows how to use it, but we've got a drone.
Figure it out.
How hard can it be? Whoever's used it, it can't be that hard. And so if people want to check out, is it AdelaideHillsSandstone.com.au?
Just .au.
AdelaideHillsSandstone.au. Obviously Instagram, you'd be all over that.
Yes.
You'd be posting daily.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't. I know of it.
Yeah.
But yes, Instagram, Facebook.
I know of it. Oh God.
Those kind of
you
things.
are 63.
It's nothing wrong with being a Luddite.
My dad says to me all the time, age is a privilege denied to many.
Yeah.
That is very true. That is very true. All right. Thank you so much for coming in. I do really appreciate it. I hope that if anyone is thinking about sandstone, they're thinking about yours. And if anyone is, we'll link up, obviously, all the businesses in the comments. But if anyone's got any questions, probably send them to me, and I'll fax them to Neil. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.